I absolutely adore The Last of Us. As much as I love the game, I've always had difficulty putting into words why exactly I feel the way that I do. But I've been able to do it once before, so excuse me while I plagiarize my own work for a second. My favorite video game of all time is The Last of Us. There are so many factors that play into why it's my favorite game, but the story and characters are what I fell in love with the most. Joel and Ellie's journey across the post-apocalyptic United States provides players with a heart-wrenching experience that is packed to the brim with thrills and heartfelt character moments. While the story of The Last of Us is a simple one, its skillful execution and complex characters make it stand out to me as one of the greatest stories ever told in video games. Seeing the natural progression of Joel and Ellie going from strangers to something that resembles a father-daughter relationship fills me with so much emotion because it feels real. Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson absolutely sell it in their roles as Joel and Ellie respectively, as their performances are nothing short of spectacular. But aside from the game's compelling story, I find its gameplay to be worthy of praise as well. There's a fine balance between exploration, environmental puzzles, and combat. I love how Naughty Dog rewards exploration with hidden collectibles, lore, and conversations that provide world building and backstory. It gives players incentive to slow down and take everything in, which is made easy by the eerie yet serene ambiance that is brought forth by the breathtaking environments, natural sounds, and melancholic score. Yeah, it's pretty clear that I'm very passionate about this game, so of course when it came down to the release of its sequel, I was interested to see where the next entry would take the story and characters that I had grown to love so much, as were a lot of people. But as most of us know, the whole game pretty much was leaked ahead of launch, and the reception to those leaks were...
I just read the leaks.
When all this was happening, I just could not fathom what kind of direction this game's story could have taken to create such a vitriolic reaction from people. Not just the ones you would expect like haters and grifters, but from hardcore fans of The Last of Us much like myself. Now, truth be told, I could not bring myself to look at those leaks. I had no desire to. Not necessarily because I was worried it would make me join the hate mob, but because I had been waiting so long for this game that I just wanted to experience it for myself from start to finish and make up my own mind about it, the way Dog intended.
And the last thing I will say is, no matter what you've seen or heard or read, nothing compares to playing this thing from beginning to end. It's a video game. You gotta play it.
Well, now it's been 5 years and I still don't know how I feel about The Last of Us Part 2. A good friend of mine named Mark Ray published an article for our blog in which he wrote about his experience revisiting the final Hunger Games book, Mockingjay, and how some of his initial views and criticisms have shifted since reading it for the first time. And in that article he says this:
"Stories are a different kind of friend from the ones you have in real life, because unlike the latter, a story doesn't change. Just yourself and the world around you."
The rest of the article is a really good read as well, and I highly suggest you head over and check it out. I'll link it down below along with the blog itself. But I wanted to highlight this quote in particular because of its relevance to my relationship with The Last of Us Part 2. Unlike my feelings for the first game, which have remained pretty consistent over the years, when it comes to Part 2, things are a bit more complicated. I think back to where I was when I first played The Last of Us Part 2 back in June of 2020. I was 18 years old and fresh out of high school. Ironically, it was also the height of a devastating global pandemic, on top of widespread civil unrest sparked by the unlawful killing of George Floyd the month prior. There was so much uncertainty in the world, but I somehow managed to find escapism in playing The Last of Us Part 2, as bleak as the game may be. Its immersive storytelling and, dare I say, fun gameplay kept me engaged and gave me something else to focus on for hours at a time. My first playthrough was a roller coaster of emotions, and while I ultimately came away liking the game, I understood why it didn't work for a lot of people. Specifically from a narrative standpoint, I don't think there are many people that will tell you that they don't like the gameplay in The Last of Us Part 2. It's engaging, it's fluid, and an improvement over the first game in almost every way. A lot of people might say the same thing about the story, but in the same strength, a lot of people would heavily disagree with that sentiment. At this point in my life, after having played through Part 2 multiple times, I would say that my tune has slowly but surely started to change. Can some of this be attributed to me being a bit more developed at the ripe old age of 23 in comparison to 18? No doubt, but I can't help but feel like the true culprit here is actually The Last of Us Part 1. I feel like every time I go back and play through that game, it makes me like Part 2 a little less. As a game, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is good. Great, even. As a sequel to The Last of Us, I view it as ambitious and unconventional, and for that, I really respect it as a piece of art. But unlike most good sequels, it doesn't really do anything to lift up the first game. Part 1 stood great on its own then, and that still holds true now even with the sequel's existence. If anything, it's a reminder of how good we had it. A wonderfully crafted game and story that introduced the world to the beloved duo Joel and Ellie, a shocking climax that sparked a genuine debate amongst fans, and an ending that's low-key and ambiguous and yet still so satisfying. Had it ended here, I truly think the franchise would have been better off for it. And I don't think that because Part 2 is the game that killed Joel in a questionable way. Not because it makes you play as Joel's killer for over half of the game. Not because Abby is supposedly unrealistically buff. Not because Lev is trans. Not because Big eats sandwiches. Not because of an awkward sex scene. And not because Ellie doesn't follow through with her revenge in the end. It actually has nothing to do with the game itself. That's right, if you clicked on this video expecting some sort of retrospective or critique of the game 5 years post-launch, I'm afraid to inform you that that's not what this video is. I'm not here to shit on the game, and I'm not here to sing its praises either. Are there things I like about the game? Yes. Do I have my criticisms? Absolutely. But I genuinely don't feel like I have any unique views or takes on this game that you haven't seen already in the past 5 years. I usually always end my videos by saying, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, I'm just a guy with an opinion. This is my way of acknowledging that my opinion is just one of many floating around in a sea of them, so you shouldn't put much stock in it. But I also use this motto to convey to my viewers that this channel is a place where your opinion is welcome, even if it differs from my own. Because people having opposing perspectives on things makes conversations more interesting. I don't want to be in an echo chamber where everyone just agrees with me, that's boring. But when it comes to The Last of Us, it's different. It feels like there are no reasonable conversations surrounding The Last of Us anymore, which is something that I had mostly forgotten about after the initial backlash of Part 2. I learned to just enjoy the games for what they were without all the noise, but after the release of the second season of the HBO series, that noise grew louder and louder, and before I knew it, I was in 2020 again. What Season 2 of the show made me realize even more so than Season 1 or even the divisive game that it's based on is that The Last of Us discourse will never be the same again. People went from collectively admiring the game to arguing over everything that the IP has since spawned and actively condemning one another for feeling a certain way. And it genuinely sucks the fun out of talking about this franchise in any shape or form on the internet. And you might say, well, that's your own fault. You shouldn't care so much about what other people think. If you like it, you like it. But yeah, I do care, because I care about The Last of Us. What this game and franchise overall has done for me over the years makes it special to me. For some people, it's Metal Gear Solid. For some, it's Legend of Zelda. For others, Final Fantasy VII. For me, it's The Last of Us. It's a game that encapsulates everything I go to this medium for. Deep world building, a compelling story, memorable characters, and great action. It being part of my favorite subgenre of fiction is just the icing on top of the cake. The Last of Us isn't just any game, The Last of Us is my game, and I'm not going to pretend that the toxicity it draws doesn't bother me. And it all started with this game. This fucking game, man. While I don't hate it, I honestly don't think I ever could. I can't help but feel some level of disdain for the game that did irreparable damage to Naughty Dog's reputation, The Last of Us community, and the brand as a whole, thereby ruining my enjoyment of talking about the series I hold dear. Because the passion you carry for something can only do so much. Thanks for watching.